The views expressed on the Nova Society are those of the panelists and guests and do not necessarily reflect the views or opinions of the Phoenix Research Institute or any institution which any panel member is associated. Reproduction or dissemination, other than for the purpose of education or information without the express written permission of the Phoenix Research Institute or Nova Society Media, is strictly prohibited.
Welcome back to the Nova Society. I'm your host, Dr. Brooklyn Ann Weldon, and I'm here with the panel, Dr. Scott Gershber and Dr. Mark Bound. Today, our panel will be, again, answering listener emails, and the question comes from Terry, who lives in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Terry asks, the Supreme Court recently upheld that the federal government can ban TikTok. Does the panel see this as a violation of the First Amendment, and what might the consequences be for those who voted for this? And could this mean that other social media platforms could also be banned?
What do you think, Scott? Because I think you and me might be on the opposite side of the fence on this one.
So I have two friends from Brooklyn, from way back, like I've known my entire life.
Yes.
And they listen to this podcast.
Yes.
Okay.
And they think that they have funny takes on the things that we talk about.
Okay.
And they called me up, or they sent me a note rather, and they said, we'd like to add a little comedy routine for the end of your talking about the same thing that you guys are doing, but with a funny slant.
Right.
I said, well, can you keep it short? And they said, yeah, we could keep it short. And I said, if you can keep it short, I'll tell you what we're going to be talking about. You can do your own little thing on it, and I'll send it to Mark. And if he wants to use it, he can. And if he doesn't want to use it, he won't. Is that?
That's cool.
I'm all for it.
I like that.
I said, I figured there were times when we need a little filler, and maybe these guys' comic take on things could be good. Although, frankly, neither one of them is funny, so I don't know how that's going to work out.
That might come into it. But yeah, with a lot of emails that we get, a lot of people like it when we kind of like go off on a tangent and are like, I don't know, a little bit more lighthearted about the shit. They do enjoy that because, it's a lot of this stuff's depressing crap.
Well, look, my kids are all TikTok people. I myself am not. And when I told them, hey, look, this is a business owned by the Chinese government, and, your information, your lifestyles, all this kind of stuff is being aggregated to form a picture of what an American is in China, so that they can use that information to gain some kind of advantage, whether it's military or something other. And they didn't care. They were just like, hey, we like TikTok, so it's fun. And I'm a kind of a First Amendment guy, so my instincts kind of tell me, like, if it's popular, people are using it, and it's free, and then it should be allowed. But I can see all sides of the issue. I'm not a constitutional scholar, so I can't really talk about what the Supreme Court decided without reading a whole lot of commentary on it, and I have not done that because, frankly, I don't really care that much. We'll see. The one thing that I can say with certitude about TikTok is that Trump was against it before he was for it, and there's something going on there.
Yes. As for the First Amendment part, I will say that actually it's not. I don't see it as a violation of the First Amendment. They are going after a company. They're not going after the speech. There's still other platforms out there that you can have whatever speech that you want to have. This is taking on a corporation. I have more problem with the fact that the United States seems to think that it can tell a foreign corporation, you have to sell your assets off to somebody. Again, that reminds me of the World War II. My grandfather worked for, back then was called ENSCO. It was fully German owned. The Germans owned it. And the government came in and took it over, and that would become the forerunner to GAF, which was the big film company. And they still make shingles for roofing. But They basically just came in and took the company over, and that was it. I heard the argument about that. They're showing TikTok to the Chinese to see what the average American is like, or what a portion of America is like. I would say, well, are you going to take off Fox News? Because they could still watch Fox News and they could see what all the crazies in America are like, or they can watch OAN, or they can watch MSNBC to see the other side of crazies, or whatever. So TikTok in itself, I don't see. I understand their complaint is that there's something nefarious going on with information being taken and things like that. That is probably so. I don't think that that's not possible with technology the way it is today. But if you're going to ban everybody that can actually do that, you're going to be banning an awful lot of stuff. It's like when somebody says to me, well, I don't want to give out this because I don't want the government knowing my information. I'm sorry, but the IRS already knows all of your information. There's nothing about you. Social Security Administration knows everything there is to know about you. I'm sorry. So you're not protecting. You don't have privacy, and if you think you got privacy, you're living in some fantasy land. Because even in the United States, we have companies or government agencies that do that. And I got news for you. It is true. The worst kept secret is the military secret or the state secret. Heck, half the people in the world know more about what's going on in the United States than people in the United States. It's just kind of the way it works. So I get the idea. Once again, always goes back to my pet peeve about somebody saying this is for national security. Okay. If that's the argument you're going to make, fine. But that brings us to the second question. Could this take other platforms off? Yep. What if they say Zuckerberg is in cahoots with the Chinese or somebody that somebody doesn't like? There goes Facebook. And that will impact more people than TikTok, I believe, because I'm like Scott. I've never even been on it. I have no idea. My kids and my grandkids are, but I couldn't tell you. I always thought it was just mostly 2-minute little things of people dancing or doing whatever. But YouTube could go away. There's a whole bunch of avenues where this could be I hate, it's a pet peeve of mine, the idea of the slippery slope, but this is the slippery slope. Well, we're looking at, okay, we don't like you because you're a Chinese company. We want to force you, like we did in World War II, for you to sell off your assets of a profitable company. Okay. And then we want to control what's on it. Okay. Sounds like you're trying to create Fox News, the TikTok version of Fox News, or right wing or even left wing or whatever. The idea of free flow of information seems to have been lost on us because of national security. We're afraid of everything these days. And I think that's all we got for old TikTok.
Yeah, I don't.
It would be different if we were like active in it. But I don't think any one of the three of us is like active in it.
Well, no. And look, but I am on Facebook, and I would be fine if Facebook went away. I think we'd all be better off probably. And same with X, which by the way is owned by a foreign-born, not particularly American, sort of an internationalist type figure that they're always screaming about in the right wing. But that's what Elon Musk is. Elon Musk got closer ties to China than he does to the United States, makes probably more money there than he does here. And, his loyalty is based on, his own personal comfort. Not, he can go anywhere he wants. He can do anything. He could live on the moon if he wanted to. So, I just think that, Congress spoke, the president spoke, the Supreme Court spoke, yeah.
As far as I know, and I don't use TikTok either, from what I heard from other people who have used TikTok, a lot of people who were using TikTok are now downloading something called Red Note, which is in fact another Chinese app.
Right.
And that as far as gathering information on other people is concerned, cars that are equipped with all sorts of doodads and flip-flops and whatnot that have cameras in them are also capable of watching the driver and collecting information on the driver and so on in real time. And that made me very happy that I have an old vehicle that doesn't have a camera in it. So there's, I mean, it's, as Mark said, there's information is being collected. And as you said also, Scott, from everywhere all the time. I mean, I don't even know if I have an opinion because I don't use TikTok. And it just seems like a grab for a company that then we can use, or we in America can use to collect information on Americans ourselves.
Yeah, who's stealing Chinese IP? How different is that from the way it usually works?
Where it usually works. And to your point, Brooke, about the idea of the cameras, remember, I have my car insurance company. To get a discount, they ask that you download an app, and every time you get in your car, it tells them how fast you're driving. Did you go through Now, we do it because there's a nice discount you get for doing it. It's called Safe Driver app or something along that line. Okay. So, TikTok is the new dragon that has to be slayed. And I don't know. I don't see it.
Yeah, the other day I had to check in on JetBlue to go to the Dominican Republic, which is another country. So I had to put my passport information into it. And I looked at my passport and I said, oh, wow, look at that. At the end of 2025, I'm going to need a new passport. And, I didn't do anything. I just put the information in and said that to my wife, who's sitting on the couch next to me. And a few minutes later, after I had successfully checked in, I went on Facebook to look for something, and boom, there it is, pop up, renew your passport by mail. And I'm like, oh my God, they're on to me. Oh my God, stop listening to everything I say, you bastards.
Oh gosh.
I'm just going to start telling them I need things that I don't, just to throw them off course, Well,
that's like when you turn 48 years old, the first thing you get is everything from AARP. I mean, you just start flooded with AARP. And I remember when I was sitting there was a period of time where I've got my wife and I were kind of hanging out, and I was sitting at the kitchen table. I was doing some work, and a thing popped up on my email, and it said, "Meet Jewish seniors looking for love near you." Oh. And I said, what the hell? I've already got one of those. What do I want another one of those for? So, yeah, and it's amazing.
So, and this comes up in my class all the time, my ethics class. And one of the things I think I have to say is that I don't think young people even expect privacy anymore. Oh. This is more our thing than theirs. I think that young people have realized that there is no such thing as privacy. Everything is an open book. They're constantly being watched. There's facial recognition technology everywhere. You can't walk down the street without being on a dozen cameras. And, the whole idea of privacy is just over. Yeah. And I don't think that they care that much, and they'd rather give their information to TikTok, which they actually get some amusement from, than the United States government, which they think is disgusting.
And you're right, Scott. I mean, I think the fact is that, I always told our children, yes, okay, the technology very well, but it was my generation that actually created this. But they became masters of using it. And I think the young people today, they look at it, the privacy thing, as long as I have the technology, and the technology continues to keep me connected and all that stuff, which I am now used to. I grew up in that environment, not like us, where if you called two cities over, it was long distance, and your parents would kill you because the long distance bill on the landline was going to be like stupid. I just think that they live to this technology. They've adapted to it better than we have. And I think they've adapted to this. This is one of the pitfalls of all of this technology. And it gets better because they have the information. So, I agree with you, Scott. I think young people, their attitude is that, hey, yeah, I'll give out my information. And to be honest with you, the bottom line is why would you care if you're not doing anything wrong? Okay, I'm not doing anything wrong. You want to find something out about me? Knock yourself out. I'm not doing anything. And I think that young people are like that, and they want to continue to have the technology that sits in front of them, and they know that this is the consequence of it, and they're okay with it.
Yeah, speaking of long distance, I remember when I was growing up, we had a party line with some of the neighbors, and you want to go use the phone, and you pick up the receiver on these old-fashioned dial telephones, and from the neighbors who were having a phone conversation, and you'd have to hang up and wait and wait and wait and wait and wait. It was a big deal when we finally got our own private line, and you could pick up the phone and there'd be from the dial tone, and now for other people talking.
Oh,
and that was so exciting.
Well, I don't know if you've ever had the experience, but when our first boy was born, he turned 3 years old. And of course, that's when they came out with push button. You actually could it wasn't all rotary. And I remember our parents got us our first, the phone used to have the antenna that would come out. It had a little base station. It was really kind of cool. We thought it was for Christmas. It was like, wow, this is great. And I got the phone bill one month, and it was like $3,000. And I said, what? And I started going through the whole thing. Now, our 3-year-old would get up at night, he'd go out, pick up the thing. He was dialing Italy. And I don't know who this poor bugger was on the phone. And he'd always dial the same number. And it was like, so we had to call the number, and I talked to the people there, had to get a translator and all this stuff. And that's the only way we got away with not paying the $3,000 phone bill, because the guy basically said, in fact, it was a woman. She said, well, this kid keeps calling us and he's blabbering. Nobody understands anything. And he's like on the phone for like a half hour. We can't get him off. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh almighty, really? So we had to go back to rotary.
Like some kid today with a rotary phone, dialing a 9 must feel like 10 minutes before it goes all the way back again.
Yeah. Or not realizing you have to pick up the receiver. Just even with a push button. They've got a great YouTube video on that where they give these 2 16-year-olds, they give them a push button, a rotary phone and a push button phone. They say, make a phone call. And they go over to the push button phone because that's a little bit more to their liking, and they start pushing buttons. And nothing's happening. They don't realize you've got to pick the receiver up. Yeah.
Goodbye, TikTok.
Goodbye, TikTok. Nice knowing you.
Yeah, so I don't know if oh dear, I've been laughing so hard. I don't know if we answered your question. But we gave it a shot anyway. So thank you everyone for listening. And we'll see you again next time on the Nova Society.
The Nova Society is a production of Nova Society Media, a division of the Phoenix Research Institute. We'd like to thank our production partners, Buzzsprout, who hosts the Nova Society, Audacity, our editing partners, Apple iTunes, the largest source of podcasts and music on the internet, Spotify, the most popular platform for the Nova Society, and iHeartRadio, your source for all things music and podcasting. The Nova Society is available on all of these and other quality platforms listed in our description. We'd also like to thank all of our listeners. Without your support, the Nova Society would not be possible. If you have a question or a comment, we can be reached at nova.society.podcast@gmail.com. So for Dr. Brooklyn Ann Weldon, Dr. Priscilla Hobbs, Dr. Scott Gershwer, and all of us here at the Nova Society, I'm Dr. Mark Bound. Remember, the true power in society is knowledge. Thanks for listening, and we will see you again next time.
Hi, everyone. This is JJ, the co-founder of Good Pods. If you haven't heard of it yet, Good Pods is like Goodreads or Instagram, but for podcasts. It's new, it's social, it's different, and it's growing really fast. There are more than 2 million podcasts, and we know that it is impossible to figure out what to listen to. On Good Pods, you follow your friends and podcasters to see what they like. That is the #1 way to discover new shows and episodes. You can find Good Pods on the web or download the app. Happy listening!